Hello fellow makeup lovers, how are y'all doing? Today we are going to review the new Seahorse palette from Adept Cosmetics. I really wanted to take my time and test this out and give you guys a thorough review because it is expensive. It retails for $140, which I know is definitely a little bit of sticker shock, but it is a palette full of multi-chromes and special shades and sparkles and shifts, and it just has a lot going for it. So in today's video, we are gonna go through and live swatch everything because that's typically how I do my swatches. I know you guys find it really helpful to be able to see how they truly perform in the moment, just as they are. No primer, no foundation, no editing, no building up, just a swatch. But because there are so many multi-chromes in this palette, I really wanted you guys to be able to see the shifts. So I went through already and swatched every single shade by itself and did a ton of B-roll. I'm gonna go ahead and insert that as we go along so you guys can truly see the shifts for all of the shadows. And for those swatches, I did build them up just a little bit because I wanted you to see all the shifts, every color. And typically with multi-chromes, if you swatch all the way from here to here, it gives you the best ability to see what it's gonna look like in person because it's definitely hard to capture on camera. After we do the swatches, I'm gonna give you guys my full thoughts on the palette, pros, cons, if I recommend it. And at the very end of the video, I'm just gonna throw in my review of the Ketracel White highlighter palette from Adept Cosmetics. This is a cream highlighter palette they launched very recently. It's already available. I thought while we're here, while we're talking about Adept, I may as well just throw that in at the end in case you're wanting to hear my thoughts. So let's go ahead and jump on into the swatches. All right, so the first shade we have here is called Courtship, and I do want to say that there's two formulas of multi-chromes in here. There's some that are very intense and some that are a little bit more like a soft traditional shadow. So Courtship is one that is extremely intense, and it is a beautiful sparkly multi-chrome. You can see it looks a little bit chunky there, so with this type of multi-chrome, I do try and go in a little bit more carefully, but it has a beautiful purple, blue, golden shift to it. It is just so intense, so pretty. I feel like this is one of those shadows that if you were seeing this from another indie brand, you could definitely expect to be paying $15, $20 for just a single. It is so, so pretty. And I feel like Adept's multi-chrome formula in the past has been more like just like a really silky, creamy, not as sparkly kind of texture. So these are definitely a little bit different. Next we have the shade Big Belly, and this is more of a soft multi-chrome. It's not as intense. It feels more like a traditional shadow. You can see just by the way it picks up on my finger. This one has a green purple shift, but it's a little bit more muted, but it's still so, so pretty. Next we have Tiger Tail, which is a very intense multi-chrome. Definitely one of my favorite shades in this palette. It is just stunning. It's like this deep purple base, this greeny gold shift. It's beautiful. Like, it's definitely another shadow that feels expensive. It's just so sparkly. Next we have the shade Giraffe, which is another extremely, extremely intense multi-chrome. This is a slightly lighter purple, and it reminds me of a shadow from Cliona. Look at how stunning that is. Has more of like a lavendery, cool toned base, but it also has that stunning gold, bluey green, different shifts running through it, and it's also extremely sparkly. And then last for that row, we have Low Crown, which is a more traditional shadow multi-chrome. It's a soft purple with a like light kind of golden peachy shift. This one is just a metallic. It's not as sparkly, but it still has a lot of shifts going on. I feel silly because like you can't see it right now, but I know when I'm inserting the B-roll, you guys are gonna be like, wow, that is stunning. Next, we have two shades that are extremely similar. We have Jaya Cars, which is a purple with a blue kind of base to it. It's kind of like a bluey turquoise base. It's more of that subtle multi-chrome formula. So there's what it looks like in just a quick little swatch. And then next we have Fig Me Thorny, which is another like bluey green base with a purple shift. I feel like the purple on this one is just slightly brighter. So there you can see what it looks like swatched out. And I have to be honest, I'm disappointed with these two shades being so similar. I'm gonna go ahead and insert some up close swatches of them side by side as well so you guys can see. I just felt like I was searching for a difference between these two. I feel like if they were from two separate palettes, I would call them dupes. They just don't have enough difference. And to be in a palette that's so expensive, you want every single shade to be worth the money. So that's definitely my biggest con with this palette, is these two shades are so close to one another. Next, we have the shade Tyro, which I think is actually a hilarious shadow because when you get it and it's untouched, it is a beautiful little rainbow swirl of shadow. Very unique, very colorful, but it actually ends up being the most neutral shade in the entire palette because of color theory. Some of these colors, when you put them together, they turn brown. So it ends up being like a neutral shadow. I'm gonna sit here and like rub for just a second and go in circles longer than I normally would because I want you guys to truly see what the shadow ends up being. So there you have it. It's like this little taupey neutral shade, very unexpected, but it has a pretty sparkle to it. I wouldn't say that it has any shifts. I feel like it's just a one color shadow when you mix it well. I think it'd be really complicated to use it any other way and like try to use individual shadows of the swirl, but I think altogether it is really pretty. Next we have the shade False Eye, which is another pretty subtle multi-chrome. It's definitely one of the least shifty shadows out of this palette, but it's still pretty and it actually does have a little bit of a sparkle to it. So there's what it looks like swatched out. It's kind of a really pretty like silvery green sparkly shade. I feel like it has this hint of like a really subtle like purple shift running through it, but it is kind of hard to see. Like I said, it's on the more subtle side. Okay, next we have Narrow Bellied. This is another favorite intense multi-chrome. So pretty. I would say it's not as thick as some of these other multi-chromes we swatched up here, but it is really sparkly and very intense. I know for y'all right there, it looks like just a green, but I'm telling you, this is the most beautiful greeny golden blue shadow. Like the shifts that are happening are absolutely stunning. And I love that it has that green, blue, gold going on, but it's not a black based multi-chrome. So for me, I feel like it's a little bit more wearable. It's a little more easy to just throw all over the lid and keep going. It's sparkly, it is stunning. Next we have the shade Long Snout, which is a beautiful orangey golden green multi-chrome. This one is similar in texture to Narrow Bellied, where it's kind of in between. It's not super intense, super thick, but it is a sparkly intense multi-chrome. Let me just grab a little bit more. Like, it's so beautiful. It has a pink shift, it has a green shift, it has gold going on, it has an orange base. I feel like I'm not normally into shades like this that much, but it is just stunning. It's sparkly. Like, I feel like that screams summer in a shadow. I have not worn that one all over my lid yet, but I really want to. So let me know if you guys want to see, if you want to see some looks, because this is actually permanent to the Adept line. So I could do a multiple looks video. I just haven't had the chance yet. I've kind of just been doing looks like off camera on my own time. So next we have Paradoxical, which is a really beautiful multi-chrome. I would say it's more on the intense side, but it's also not the super thick formula, but it is beautiful, super shifty. It's one of those really light iridescent multi-chromes, but it has green, it has gold, it has pink. So pretty. Definitely one of my favorites. I've worn that all over the lid and I loved it. Like, it was just so easy to do and it really just, it stands out. I guess I probably should have told you guys that I put Giraffe all over my lid today and I really love how that looks. And then my inner corner is actually this shade Cindo, which is the next one we're gonna swatch. It is such a beautiful iridescent multi-chrome. Possibly my favorite shade in the entire palette. It's really hard to decide because there's so many beautiful options, but this is one of those iridescent multi-chromes that literally capture the entire rainbow. I feel like I'm just like wasting my time telling you guys about it. I just need to show you because it is stunning. Like, I know it looks beautiful there, but just look at the up close swatch. Look at how it shifts from green to gold to pink, and you see blue and purple, and it is just perfection. It's another shadow that I feel like makes this palette worth it for me. Next, we have the shade Ponta, which is a super intense, thick multi-chrome. Like I said, this is one of the ones that are more flaky. You have to be a little bit more careful with, but it is intense. How many times can one girl say intense in a video? So this one is like a pink base, a hot pink base. I mean, look at that. And then it also has an orange, gold, and green shift to it. And it is super sparkly, super thick, super metallic, just so pretty. And last but not least, we have Soft Coral, which is another intense, thick multi-chrome. I love this one as well. So here's what it looks like. It is a pinky purple golden dream. It's extremely sparkly, just so pretty. I feel like you guys can kind of see some of the shift happening there, but it has a lot of purple and green going on that I feel like you can't necessarily see just from, you know, the front facing camera, but it is gorgeous. Like, I feel like the purple multi-chromes that are in here, if you're a purple special shadow lover, this palette is delivering. That is what the entire palette looks like swatched out. I feel like it's stunning, but it's definitely not doing it like full justice because you guys saw the swatches are amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead, wash this off real quick, and I'll be right back to tell you guys my full thoughts. All right, y'all, so I feel like it's pretty obvious that I do really like this palette. Overall, I think that there is a lot of value for your money because there are so many multi-chromes in here and they're really high quality. They feel like the type of indie shadow that you would normally only be able to get in singles previously, and I just think they look so stunning all over the lids. I believe that the calculations for this palette, when you divide up how many multi-chromes they are, it comes out to like $9 per multi-chrome or something like that, which I think is a really amazing price when you break it down like that. But obviously, if you don't love all of the shadows, if you don't love all the textures, if you don't want like a mixture of textures, if you only like one type of formula when it comes to multi-chromes, then I could see how this palette wouldn't be for you. My biggest con is that these two shades here I feel like are too similar. That does take away just a touch of love that I have for this palette because I feel like that could have been another shadow that would have added, you know, more versatility or just something different to the palette. I also like the mixture of formulas in here. Personally, the really intense ones I apply to my lid with my finger and I've had no issues with that. I've also had no issues with wear or having them crease or anything like that. I think that they look absolutely stunning, and my favorite thing has been just throwing like a little matte moment in the crease from a different palette and then throwing these multi-chromes all over the lid, and I feel like it gives that look that you tried really hard, but in reality it's just a two shadow look. And then also all of the multi-chromes here that are more of that subtle formula that aren't quite as like chunky and intense, I feel like they pick up really well with a brush, which I appreciate because sometimes it just depends on Adept shadows. They don't always pick up amazing with brushes, but those ones have absolutely no issues, and I think it's just because it's more like a traditional powder shadow. I realize now I didn't mention, but I do really like the packaging. I think it's super cute, it's sturdy, and the palette is officially launching today, so I'll make sure to link it down below for y'all. The one last thing I do want to say about this palette is if you are interested, it is permanent to the Adept line. I really appreciate that they put that information out beforehand, so don't feel any rush to purchase it right away. If you want to watch more reviews, if you want to watch more tutorials, if you just want to take your time to decide whether this is right for you, they said it's going to be around as long as there is still interest in it. So that's something to keep in mind. And then really quickly, let's just talk about this highlighter palette. I was kind of confused by this one because it's like a cream highlighter palette, but you have two different rainbow stripes going on in here. So I do like the packaging of this, and I do like a good cream highlighter, but I'm kind of like 50-50 about this palette because, well, this shade I just don't know that it will work as a highlighter for anyone. It's a very like deep, like bluey green shadow when you end up swatching it all together. I did see Millie from Bad to the Brow do a stunning like one swipe look where she like swiped her finger across and then swiped it across on her eye. And it looked so cool, but I don't know that I would be able to recreate that or do something similar. This shade Founder is another like rainbow moment, but it's definitely a little bit lighter, and when you swatch it all together it kind of ends up being like a cool toned blue highlighter. We also have Gem Harder, which is a pretty like clear base with a yellowy orangey shift, and then Vorta is a clear base with a pinky shift. So I have Vorta on my cheeks today. I feel like it adds a nice glow to the skin. I have layered it over powder and had no issues with it getting patchy, and it blended really nice and everything. So I think they're pretty. I just feel like it's kind of funny because like these two highlighters, yes, they have like a little bit of a color to them, but they're definitely more on the subtle side. And then these two are just like wham, bam, very different. So for me, I feel like this is nice. I can get use out of some of the shades, but I'm not obsessed. And I'm not like, oh, everybody needs this face palette kind of vibes or anything. So here's what Vorta looks like. I'll show you. It's just a soft pink shift. And like I said, it does have a pretty clear base. Here is Gem Harder. Here is Founder. So I'll go ahead and show you guys. I'm just gonna swipe it across. You can kind of see the rainbow like that. But then when you blend it all together, that's more of what it ends up being. And then here's Dominion. Oh gosh, that's kind of hard. I was trying to do a little swipe so you could see the rainbow, and then I'll show you what it looks like all blended together. So there's the swatches. All right, y'all, that is everything that I had to say for this video. I hope that it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them for me down below, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.